Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC. Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC. Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Capital Advisory Group, Inc. is not affiliated with Kestra IS or Kestra AS. Neither Kestra IS nor Kestra AS provide legal or tax advice and are not certified public accounting firms.
You work hard for your money. For the next hour, you're going to learn how to keep what's yours. Capital Advisory Group presents Keep What's Yours. Here are Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Hello and welcome to Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. I'm Josh Gilbert, sitting here with Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, how you doing?
Very good.
Good.
You wrote the book, Keep
Yes.
What's Yours. That's what the book's called. The show that we do every week is called Keep What's Yours. The idea is for us, me, the little person, everybody pays taxes.
Yes.
Right?
No way out.
And I will gladly pay taxes if I have to.
Yes, if you're legally obligated to pay them.
But there is a way to utilize the tax code to make it so that I can save a little money here, keep a little money there.
Yes.
And we've come to the conclusion that I will pay my taxes, but not a penny more than what I should have to.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Utilizing the tax code, it's legal.
Yes.
I'm within the guidelines.
Yep.
The IRS isn't going to, sniff at my tax
hunt you
return.
down. No.
They're not going to hunt me down. I'm doing all the right things, and Jeff is the one that's walking me through the whole process. Jeff,
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For helping me keep what's mine. He can help you keep what's yours. So just listen for the next hour, and you'll find tricks and tools and things that you can wiggle into.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, as long as you stay within the guardrails
Yes.
of the tax code, these politicians, they put in all of these handouts for big corporations,
Exactly.
and rich people, and all
Yep.
that stuff. We'll talk about rich people in just a second. But they also threw us a bone,
There's a few tossed out there.
which I'm like stunned by. Holy cow, they thought about me. I've got a son. He's in daycare. We're able to use a flex spending account
Yes.
to help pay for my son's daycare. We get $1,200 that we get to keep.
Yeah.
We keep what's ours. And otherwise, that extra $1,200 would be going off to the federal government
Exactly.
in the form of
You
taxes.
never see it again.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I could do a lot more with $1,200. What does the federal government do with $1,200? They buy a hammer.
Yeah. Half a hammer.
2 nails. What was that famous story with the toilet seat?
$10,000 toilet seats or something.
It's
that was a cover for something.
Right. And then we didn't even talk about this story. That jet, the F-35.
Oh, yeah, that's old news, but that's $100 and something or $18 billion or something of that effect.
The cost of the program. So an F-35 jet, South Carolina, something happened. The pilot was either ejected himself or it was like, warning, and they tossed him out to be safe. And then this plane flew for another 100 miles and then crashed in a swamp somewhere. But this F-35, it had so many problems. And each jet cost about $100 million.
Is that what it is, $100 million? Yeah.
But the whole program over the last 20 years has been like $3 trillion.
That's a chunk.
That is straight tax money.
Oh, yeah, straight tax money.
That is straight. You and me, our
Taxpayer
tax
money.
dollars are going to pay for the Department of Defense, and they have, over the past 20 years, sunk $3 trillion into an airplane that keeps kicking its pilot up and crashing into a swamp. It's just, mind-boggling. So the fact of the matter is, I don't mind paying taxes because we do need roads and bridges and all this stuff. But maybe me keeping a little bit more of what's mine sends a message to the government, hey, quit wasting my money.
Yeah, but no.
All right.
They're going to do what they need to do as they go forward.
Well, it's just one of these things. It goes to the government, and they spend it how they choose.
Exactly.
All we can do is, try to get people elected that, make a promise to
maybe not spend so much.
Maybe not spend so much, but, we can't really do much once they get to Washington, D.C. So, call me jaded, but
No, because I think they said that our daily it's a $2 billion a day or something of that effect that's being added to the national debt as we go forward due to higher interest rates with inflation, the cost of everything, what the government's spending.
Stop the bleeding.
And it's a matter of stop spending, period.
Yeah, period. So what do we do about it? I don't know. But in my own house, in my own personal finance, me, my wife, my son, he doesn't really contribute yet.
Yeah, not yet. Get him out there, get him going.
Yeah, he's 3. Maybe he can model,
Yeah, there you go.
And bring in some income. But in my own life, in my own situation, I can do some things to save money on taxes, to keep more of what's rightfully mine.
Yes.
And the only way I know how to do that is to have Jeff get on the case and recommend things. Because there's an FSA, Flex Spending Account. That's what we're using. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
But we talked to you for 15 minutes, and you're like, let's do an FSA.
Yeah.
Great. So Jeff you know all these things that exist, but then the other, the part B of this whole thing is, well, great. People at home, flex spending accounts. See if you can get one started, or health spending accounts.
Yeah.
See if you can save some money into, we're always going to need health care.
Exactly.
Especially when we start getting older. So maybe you can sock some money away, tax-free or pre-tax, and as long as you spend it on your health care.
As long as health care and our health care premiums are Part B Medicare premiums as you go forward. So that's the whole concept of that HSA, is being able to put money away. And hopefully you don't need it today, due to medical issues, but you could use it later. So it's perfect setup.
And if you know that you have medical expenditures, or maybe a yearly, I spend X amount yearly on prescriptions.
Exactly.
Start socking money away and let the government chip in on part of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the question is, I'm sitting at home. I'll be the listener in this case. Hey, that sounds great. I'd love to save some tax money. How do I do it, though? Well, that's where Jeff steps in as well. Not only does he tell you how to do it, but he can get on the phone with your HR department. He can walk you through the forms. He can set it up for you. He can help you get it going, because, it's one thing to know about it. It's another thing
how to implement it and what it really does for you at the end of the day.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing.
So that's what Jeff can do for you, senior tax strategist and wealth advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Here's the number. Get ready. Here it comes, 636-394-5524. Give him a call. If you hit the voicemail, leave a message. Say, I want to get an appointment on the schedule.
Yes.
Go to the appointment, hear what Jeff has to say, and then you could be on your way to keeping more of what's yours. Name of the game. All right. We have a big news from this week coming out of the St. Louis County. They just announced that the board, or the aldermen, or I don't even know what you call them in St. Louis County.
This board of aldermen,
have decided to finally do this tax freeze, property tax freeze for seniors. We got to look at the specifics. And as long as Sam Page ends, let me check my watch. Maybe he signed it by now. I don't know. As long as he ends up signing off on this, this will be law.
It'd be law. It's the SB 190 is the bill, and you can look it up. So they passed it 4-2. And so what it's saying is your real estate taxes today, and I say today, 2023, that's coming around the corner here shortly that we have to pay, you'll still have to pay. But 2024, whatever that number is where it freezes. So you had this year you got to pay, like here by December 31st they're due. And then you'd have next year, and a lot of people in St. Louis County had a huge increase. Huge increase.
There's been a real estate bonanza. Is this coming off the heels of the fact that during the pandemic people were paying $50,000 over asking price?
And they're still,
even if their asking price was $300 and they paid $350 because there was a bidding war. What does the comps show?
Well, the comps it's going to show a sale of $350, so it's jacking up the value of all these houses.
Yeah.
So in the past, the tax base was way lower than the actual market, but that's not necessarily true. They're starting to creep up because of the bidding wars that took place. So if you have somebody move in your neighborhood and you have a $200,000 house and they paid $350 for a house that should be $250, you're stuck with that increase because that's your comp in your neighborhood.
Are people opening their tax bill, their
and
property
falling
tax
out of their
bill
chair
over the past 3, 4, 5 years? And they're
Yes.
like, what is going on here?
Kind of started in 20, and you saw little increases, and then you saw it really big in 21. 22 was huge.
And can we point directly and say it's because of
Yes.
the bonanza that's
Well,
been
yeah,
going on?
the increase in how would you say it, the longevity of the run of real estate. Not saying it ever runs out of steam because they don't make any new dirt, but the problem is just the increase in these bidding wars that have taken place jack up the values of the houses, and then county sees that and says, "Hey, we can raise our rates," and they're going to make more money.
You know, county's probably saying, we know what's going on here. Everybody can tell it's the over asking price.
Oh yeah, well that's
stuff.
started to slow down because again, county. I think, and I'm not a real estate agent, but I think a lot of the county was no inventory. So anything that ever showed up as a newer home, everybody was like, "Whoa, thank you very much," you know, and they're all over it, and that's how the bidding war started. Whereas St. Charles County has the bigger, subdivisions, the newer ones that are being built. St. Louis City kind of has the same thing. So now we got St. Charles County has the freeze. St. Louis County will, hopefully, when Sam signs this, will have the freeze on it. So all eyes are now pointed at the city going, hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and the county probably is saying, hey, we know that they paid $50 over asking price. We know this house probably isn't worth $350, but we will tax them
at the $350
as
plus.
the day is long.
Exactly.
Because that's what it sold for. Hey, don't look at me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's sold for.
Look at the sale price.
Because when you get in county, when you get your actual tax bill, you have comps. And the one I got was, it's in my neighborhood, but my house doesn't even compare to those guys. I mean, not even close.
And you have always given me the example, and I love this example, of the little old lady that moved into Ladue in 1950.
Exactly.
She bought a ranch house. It was $50,000.
Yeah.
Now it's $1 million.
Exactly.
Just because, it was a nice house back then, but,
it's location.
60, 70 years later.
Yeah.
Location, and now this woman is on a fixed income,
and her real estate bills, $15,000 a month.
Can you imagine? I mean, is that really how it works? Can't she say, "Look, I paid $50,000 for this thing"?
Nope.
It's not my fault that Ladue turned out to be what Ladue is.
Exactly. Well, she could go petition it and say, "Hey, my house isn't a 3-story, with 5 pools and stuff like that." And they'll give her a little bit of a break, but you got to fight your way through it to get it accomplished. You just can't say, hey, I'm not going to pay it. So that's the one big thing. But county, here's a little trick to it. The freeze will start in December of 24, whatever your tax rate is next year. So they're going to get you one more year.
Okay. All right. Look, fair enough. Hey, we're going to give you a deal, but...
And so you have to be over 67.
Not until next year.
Yeah, and so you got to be over 67 in 2024.
67, got
and
it.
then your house cannot be greater than $550,000. So the question is which we don't know yet, is that how would I say it? Is that the appraised value, or is that the tax value? Which they should be a little bit of a divide between the two, and we don't know just yet. So they're just saying value of $550 or greater.
And tell me if I'm doing the phrasing right. The assessed value is what the county goes off of?
That's what the county goes off of, and it's a calculation that they use for taxing versus what you could get in the open market.
If I go to a real estate agent and she lists it, is that going to match what the county has assessed?
Not necessarily.
Is it normally... the assessed value is generally lower.
Way lower than
what
your market value. Because the prices have skyrocketed over the years from an appreciation standpoint versus, and I say this, everybody's going to be like, daggers on my back. The taxing rate hasn't kept up with what the values have increased at.
How do they figure assessed value? Is there a guy or a gal in an office that just goes, all right, 37, 29... Okay, here, and then they go, all right, let's go next door, and every year.
They do. Well, I think it's St. Louis County, I think, is every 3 years, hypothetically, even though every year for the last 3 years our taxes have gone up. It's supposed to be reassessed every 3 years.
Right.
And they use what's called a mill value, which is a calculation they use to do the taxing side of it. So
do you
it's
think
not
they only
market.
go to the really nice neighborhoods, too?
I think they do all of them because
Okay.
I've seen people from all walks of life calling saying, hey, what do I do with this real estate bill? It's, 15% greater than what it was last year.
And if it shoots up like that, is that, I'm paying my mortgage. My taxes are kind of rolled into my mortgage payment.
So
at the end of the year, do they say, oh, by the way,
so you ever get a letter?
you owe us an extra?
Exactly. You get a letter from your mortgage company that says, hey, you have a shortage, escrow shortage. You need to either increase your payment or pay us X lump sum to keep it the same.
Do I have to pay that out of pocket?
Yes.
I can't say, hey, next year, why don't you?
Well, or you say next year, what they do is they up your house payment to offset the increase in the taxes.
And then it goes up again.
And it goes up
and
again and again and again. So in an inflationary, you're spending, probably, honestly, everybody's been to the store. You see what stuff costs.
Yeah.
You're probably paying seriously a 15 to 17% increase from last year. In
on
real
food, on milk, on eggs,
exactly
on
from
Pepsi.
real.
We talked about Pepsi
stuff
last
that you're
week.
putting cash down to buy, and then on top of that, so you're already pinched there, and then you get real estate tax come in, and then you got to pay that. Then you got personal property tax in in the state of Missouri.
Don't even get me started.
Oh yeah, so it's like wait a minute. So the taxing districts are getting carried away.
We should do a whole show on personal property tax.
You could even do it on the taxes that you pay.
Didn't
daily.
I already pay taxes on this car
Yeah,
when I
to
bought
license
it?
it, you did. So
Didn't I pay taxes on this boat?
Well, I
when
should
I
say
bought it?
St. Charles County, I think, is the only county that actually is enforcing the people that bought a vehicle that never went and paid the tax. And
Oh, the
got
register,
tagged
yeah, the
on the
temp,
register,
this is the
the
temp
temp
tags.
tags.
Yeah.
So St. Charles County is saying, hey, turn in your neighbor, if they got a temp tag and it's expired. St. Louis
you know
County
what? I
hasn't
might,
pushed it,
you
and
know.
the city probably hasn't pushed it.
I
so.
pay my taxes, and you should too.
Well, and what was the one? It was on Facebook. It was funny. It was the back of it was a Chrysler something, maybe one of the fancy, like a Charger or something like that. And on the back window, it said something like bad financial decision, but it had a temp tag that was like 2 years old. So at least they acknowledge it.
Right.
So
Yeah. Somebody on the yard sale tried to sell a Dodge Charger Hellcat. $75,000.
Wow.
Whoa, for a Charger. He's like, well, it's a Hellcat.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. He did sell it and bought a truck instead. So.
Well, in the old days, those used to get every about couple weeks. You'd hear a report on Manchester. What was it? Used to be Royal Gate Dodge on Manchester Road. They'd steal one or two over the weekend.
Holy cow.
They'd make them about 100 feet down Manchester Road, wrap it around a telephone pole because it had so much power.
Yeah,
So-
right, right. You got to know how to drive them, too.
Oh yeah.
All right, so 67 years of age, starting in 2024,
Mm-hmm.
$550,000 or greater.
Yes.
Is
500
not included.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
get a freeze. So
550 or less.
or less.
And then I think people are getting tripped up on this. Some of the people I talk to say, oh, so those people don't have to pay
No.
property tax anymore? No.
They pay whatever it was
they
in
paid
24.
In 24, it doesn't go up
Yep.
from there. So they're
So-
still paying taxes.
Still paying tax, but you're not getting the increases. So the school districts are kind of panicking on this. I think that's what really killed it originally in St. Louis County, as special school district, Rockwood, Parkway.
I mean,
Hazelwood.
to their defense,
They're
they've
like-
been asking for more money
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
They don't have enough for the
And
teachers
and if you
supplies.
if you look on this back page of your tax bill, in a sense, your real tax bill, it gives you a breakdown for St. Louis County. I know it does. I don't know about city or St. Charles, and it'll show you where your money actually goes, percentage wise or dollar wise. And it's always St. Louis County Special School District is number one. Then you have your fire districts, and then it works its way, and then you're like Parkway or Rockwood, or the third or fourth in the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes into all the other crazy stuff that you get from St. Louis County. So I'm sure St. Charles County, if you ask for, has one of those, kind of showing you where your money goes. Just interesting.
It is,
you know,
yeah, that is interesting.
Just to say, hey, it's Parks is like bottom of the list. They get like 3 cents or something goofy like that. You know,
so don't complain about the parks getting
Yeah.
money, 'cause they ain't. All right, so the question is, what does an average person pay year over year in increases in personal? If this is frozen, how much are the 67-year-olds and up saving year after year?
Well, I mean, you'd figure, I don't know what the average is, but just looking at some of them that I've seen, normal houses, $250-ish, so it's not, I think the average house price in the U.S. today is like $460, is what they're saying. But
in the U.S.
In the U.S. That's picking up
New York and
California. Yeah, places that they're already overinflated. But we'll say in Midwest, say it's 200, 250-ish as average. And you got a 10% increase on, you're paying $4,000 a year in taxes. 10% increase is $400 a year. So, I mean, that would save you, hypothetically, if it was a 10% increase each year, it'd save you $400 a year going forward.
10% each year?
If it went up 10, yeah.
After 10 years?
Well, that's what I mean. It's almost doubling. So,
holy cow.
Yeah, so that's kind of that weirdness that you put in there. And again, your taxing district typically don't increase by 10% a year, but they have 20, 21, 22.
So for the people arguing against this, I mean, I can kind of see their point. If someone's 67, that's not that old anymore,
Exactly.
People lived, if somebody lived to be 87,
exactly.
another
20 years
from now,
that they freeze at that level and they don't have. So if we go through another cycle of this again, real estate wise, which we will, just don't know when.
They're still paying taxes.
They're still paying taxes,
not the increase that the rest of us
exactly. Exactly. So let's say that every economic cycle repeats itself. So let's say that we, like right now, currently, due to interest rates, honestly, everybody that wanted to buy a house that hasn't is like, I'm not paying that, because they're accustomed to a 2.5% interest rate, and they're being quoted 7.5%, 7.75% today. They go, I'm not going to do that. So they're going to sit and wait it out. So it'll run through its ebbs and valleys in a sense of the cycles. So we'll run through another 10 years from now, real estate kicks back in. Well, that 67-year-old is now 76. They're still in the prime of their life, cruising along, but they're frozen. They're not going to increase, which is good. I mean,
I could see both sides of it for sure, but it's good, especially if you're on a fixed income and you want to stay. You want to stay
in
lady,
the neighborhood,
and you want to stay
because you get forced out of your own house because you can't afford.
I
the
had
taxes
to sell
and
the
everything
house
else.
that the kids and grandkids grew up in because I couldn't afford
the taxes.
Yeah. That to me sounds awful. But then you also hear those stories. Remember that story about MC Hammer? He bought that $30 million house in Oakland. The gate said Hammer Time on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he had to leave because he couldn't afford the taxes on it.
Exactly.
Okay, you buy 50 cent, you bought a $50 million house. You know you have to pay taxes on that every year.
Who was it that had one right out in Wildwood by the ski slopes? There was one of the rappers.
Nelly.
Nelly had one, and it sat vacant for like 5 or 7 years.
Yeah.
He finally just sold it
Did you see
in
the
spring.
pictures?
Oh, it was trashed.
They needed to just tear that thing down.
Yeah. Well, it's that cool on that bluff overlooking Hidden Valley or whatever that was. But that thing sat there vacant for 7 years.
Is he still paying taxes on it?
Apparently he was. He still was doing. He just never went there again.
Yeah, right. So I could see both sides of the argument here. One of my questions, and Jeff, you probably don't know the answer to this, but you've seen a lot. At what age do people downsize, and do they sell their house and move into a condo or move into an even smaller house?
We see a vast discrepancy there. Some go as long as they can possibly go in their house. They like going out in their yard, cutting their grass, that kind of stuff.
Are there a lot of 87-year-olds that still live in their own house?
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Sure.
And it gets to a point of health if you can't go out and do that stuff or keep the maintenance up, or you just say, hey, I had a huge house, the kids have grown, the grandkids don't come by anymore, sell it, and they downsize to smaller houses,
Just a fun apartment in Clayton or something.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at that, but it was like, I like my house. I'm staying.
Yeah, I'm staying. Well, you're still young.
Yeah.
And you don't get a freeze yet.
No.
So this is interesting, and then I did see that it sunsets after 5 years.
Yes.
So that'll be something where they would either decide to continue on.
Just like all Trump's tax cuts that he put out there, or I should say tax laws, not cuts, but tax law he put out in 2019, all sunset 2025. And they do that by design. And it not that they're going to say, hey, I'll let the other side get access to this. They just do it to let somebody come in and revamp so whoever wins 24's election next year revamps all of our tax laws going forward.
That's a big deal.
And it's not that it's optional. They have to do it. They either have to extend it or they have to get in there and
They
start.
have to make a decision one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's interesting. So the new law in St. Louis County, as long as Sam Page signs off on it, and all indications
Which
he will.
Nobody said that he isn't, and there's apparently he hasn't really spoken on it yet, but I don't think there's anything that he doesn't like. So
67 years old. If your house is worth under $550,000, you get a property tax freeze. You still have to pay your property tax.
Still got paid. You don't get out of it. It's not scot-free. So.
But you pay 2024's amount from here on.
Yeah,
and it
for 5 years.
In 5 years, and we'll see if they pick that up again. So that's the truth. That's the reality of it. If you have any more questions, call Jeff.
Exactly.
636-394-5524. And if you have property tax questions, he'll handle it. He's the tax guy. And full disclosure, he's my tax guy as well. Keep what's yours with Jeff Zufall, Capital Advisory Group, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. We'll go to commercial break. 636-394-5524. Give Jeff a call.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back to the program, back to Keep What's Yours, and Jeff Zufall is here with me, Capital Advisory Group, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com, 636-394-5524. Let's get the number out there early and often, because I know that people will hear things on this show and say, ooh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I'd like to keep more of my money.
Heck yeah.
Who do I call? Well, you call Jeff. 636-394-5524. I want to talk about rich people, the top 1%ers. And I don't think I heard this phrase, the 1%, the 1%ers.
Yeah.
Until, what was it? Do you remember Occupy Wall Street?
Yes.
Do you remember that whole thing?
This is where that actually came from.
Yeah. And it was all these, young kids with the hippie kids with their hacky sacks, and they put up a bunch of tents outside of Wall Street.
Yeah.
And they were complaining. And I wholly agree with them on a lot of their complaints, that the 1%ers, the rich people, just keep getting richer
and richer,
causing a huge gulf, income inequality in this country. So how do you fix that? I don't know. But obviously, Jeff, if I have money, I can reinvest it to make more money. If I don't have money, I can't do anything.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it makes sense on paper how this continues to happen, but we do seem to be in quite a cycle. However, those guys, they slept in their time. I went down and talked to somebody at Keener Plaza. That's where our Occupy Wall Street was Keener Plaza before they redid it. And, he said some interesting things, but I think he also was just kind of there for the movement. Not necessarily knew exactly what it is.
Yeah, and go, yeah.
Yeah, hey, my buddy came down here, so
I came down to camp.
I came with him. It sounded like fun.
Yeah.
But they were protesting, I guess, the fact that the 1%ers in this country had it all, and we're getting more and more.
Yes.
While the most of us were getting less and less.
So the old adage is money chases money.
Yeah. It takes money to make money.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's true. That's true. But who are the 1%ers?
So this is the funny part is, and the report was Wall Street Journal that actually had it. And it's saying the top 1% of earners. So the state of Illinois, if you're $568,350, you're the top 1%. So that means you make the most, you're 1% of all of America.
So state of Illinois, you got Chicago up there, which has tons,
super heavy hitters,
tons
even
of money.
International.
I mean, is it the second city still, or is it the third or fourth?
I think it's like the third now. They're saying, but still heavy hitters. So that's why that's so high. The funny part is
568 though.
568,000 is what if you go 568, 350 plus a buck, you are in that 1%er club.
That's 1%. That's it.
That's it.
That actually,
so,
not to say that I'm anywhere close to touching 560 a year. Is that joint filers?
They just say on average.
Income?
It's typically probably But they don't really define that. They just say if you make more than 568.
I'm thinking one percenters are the cigar-smoking fat cats with their yachts and stuff. 568.
Well, it goes up from there, but
living in Chicago, that's not a yacht.
So let's say you don't work, but yet you make $568,000 from your portfolio on an annual basis, and you really don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge chunk of money sitting to the sideline that generate that kind of income.
Yeah.
You know, saying the average stock is 3 to 4% in a dividend. So these are big bucks.
That's not net worth.
This is just income,
what they
reportable,
have in savings and
taxable income.
Yearly income of 568.
Yeah, is Illinois. And the funny part is they didn't say in Missouri what the 1% was, but they did say what the 5% was.
Missouri didn't say what their 1%.
Didn't
Why
say.
not?
I don't know. Just did not reference it. But the top 5% in Missouri is $187,045. And you go, wait a minute, that's the top 5% of taxpayer income is $187.
Filing jointly, that's doable.
Completely doable. So, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. The national average is across just averaging the country is 561, 351 is top 1%. The top 25% nationally of taxpayer income is $87,946.
And that's where most people
That's the
live.
bulk. The IRS is not slow. They know this. That's how they build tax law. They know that, hey, top 25% is $87,946. So if you look at tax brackets, you look at exemptions, it'll put you right in there.
Wow, that's interesting.
But it's still, you'd think the top 25% of income for the United States of America would be higher than 87.9.
Yeah, you would think
You'd
so.
think that, but it's not.
The bulk of Americans are filing their taxes and saying, either single or married filing jointly, the bulk of people are saying we made almost $88,000.
Exactly. And you're the top 25% of taxpayers.
That seems
low to me. It goes really fast down to like crazy numbers. And so what you're realizing is the top 1% or really the top 25% of America pay all the taxes.
Oh, okay, because once you get
once you
get below that.
Once you go below that, you're getting all kinds of credits and all kinds of stuff.
Right. And what is the I don't want to talk poverty line because I don't know if that
depends on
anything to do with
if you're
taxes,
married. If you're married filing jointly and how many children you support, so on and so forth. But typically it's around 14,000. You got to make $15,000 or more to actually be put on
to actually show
ACA.
up on a tax.
Yeah, well, ACA, Obamacare.
Oh, okay.
You got to make 15 plus. Otherwise, they push you back onto Medicare. By default. So it's kind of crazy, but that's state by state level too. So here's the run. This is like California, 726,000 is the top 1%. Washington D.C. is 871, 900. So we'll call it 872.
Washington D.C.
Where your lobbyists are hiding out.
There's a lot of money in
There's
D.C.
a ton of money in D.C.
Everybody wants to be in the sphere.
Exactly.
To say, hey, I make a lot of money. I need to keep more of what's mine.
Exactly. 872, you're not hurting. Connecticut is 819. And here's one that I didn't think would make the hit, but it did. Texas at 543. And the one that I thought would be the highest was New York, but it wasn't. It was 668.
So Connecticut average for the 1%ers is 819.
819.
But in New York, it's 668.
Yeah. Which you'd think that New York would be higher than Connecticut, but
hey, all those rich people live in Connecticut.
Exactly. That might
be the
commute.
To New
they
York.
Commute to New York. Exactly. So, so kind of crazy when you really start looking at it. But moral to the story is, top 25% of taxpayers is 88,000. So that's the bulk of America right there.
That's the bulk.
That pays the biggest amount of tax.
That's you and me and everyone we know. That the rich people do their own thing.
These guys making $870. You could afford to pay an attorney and a CPA to go hack away at stuff for you. Easily.
To go, find some tax savings. But for the majority of people, it's probably hard to get a person on their case. But you see these people all the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell everybody what I paid Jeff to do my taxes, but it was a couple $100.
Millions and millions of dollars.
You know,
I didn't buy my Ferrari, so.
Right, but you found a way, and not a loophole, because it's in the tax code.
It's in the tax code.
You found a way for us to keep $1,200,
Yeah.
and then for doing that, you charge us a couple $100. I mean, I'm going in, say, keeping $1,000.
Exactly, in your pocket net at the end of the day.
I'm making money by having someone just look at my taxes to find out where I'm going wrong, or to double down on what I'm doing right.
Exactly, that's the whole concept.
It actually, it sounds. Number one, it sounds crazy to say I'm going to do my own taxes.
There's people that get into it that do it.
They're called crazy people.
But you got to look at the cost of, and again, without, I'll say the major players out there in the software space. By the time that you pay for the software, by the time that you pay to e-file, because the funny part is you pay to buy it, and then you have to pay another fee to e-file the state. Kind of a little hidden thing in there that they got in a lot of trouble for.
But,
and then your time to sit there and go, man. And in some of the software, you're clicking yes or no responses. You click the wrong, you say no to something, it's going to take you down this rabbit hole, and it's hard to get back out of it.
Right. And I'll bring up the software in just a second again, but there was a commercial during tax time.
Yeah.
And I brought it up a couple times, but we're gonna kind of.
Oh, those are coming back here in the next 30 days.
We're going to kind of double down on it and use it as a Jeff Zufall commercial as well. It's the guy sleeping on the couch with his baby. There's a fan in the back. It looks like a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and they're just taking a nice nap. And the tagline is, you could do this, or you could be doing your taxes.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if dollars to donuts, I'd rather have a nice Sunday afternoon on my own. Rather than pouring over tax stuff, I'll just bring it to you and let you pour over it.
Exactly.
Jeff.
There's been many a golf game lost on tax returns. So.
It's like, hey, let's call Jeff to see if he's going. No, wait, what month is it? Don't even bother.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you just have to kind of realize when you sit down with the software, there's not a window that pops up and says, hey, your 3-year-old is in daycare. Did you ever think about doing an FSA and saving some money and maybe pushing some money into a 529 for his college? It's like, they don't know me.
No.
You
they
do.
Really don't. Exactly.
And the questions to ask. The software is probably just trying to, and they'll
it's going to try, but again, AI helps a ton, but still, it's not to that level where it goes, hey,
would you like a 529? And I'm like, what is that? And then the law pops up, and I can't read this. I don't know how to read this.
Page 5,090 of.
Yeah. So I just, for my money, just have Jeff look at your taxes. He can help you keep some of what's yours. You go in actually probably saving money after the end of the day. And if you're not doing anything, we say this all the time, if you're not doing anything when it comes to your taxes as far as trying to save money or keep money, Jeff can probably find something.
There's always some. It may not be thousands of dollars. It could be a couple $100, but there's something on your return that will help you save some money. I mean, it's there. So.
While we're talking about rich people and what the 1% is, who the 1% is, taxes, you mentioned that there is a tax gap.
Yes. So this goes down that path of 1%ers and so on and so forth, and who makes what, and the average American, making $88,000. The IRS just released this last week, and it's saying that we have a record shortfall on what they call a tax gap. This is the highest ever recorded. What they're saying is there's $688 billion sitting out there unpaid, if you want to call it, taxes. So you go, and this is for tax year 2021, but here's the catch. Of the $688 billion that they say there's giant gaps sitting out there, $542 billion of the $688 billion is underreported income. It's not that people owe it yet. It's that people have underreported their income to save $542 billion.
So it's not
tax.
like sitting out there and they're saying, we're waiting for you to pay this. It is me saying, well, I actually made $200,000, but I'm only going to tell the government that I made $100,000.
Yeah. So you go, where are they going here? And I really think what this is, and they say $77 billion of the 688 is due to failure to file your tax return. So people that
So those are people that they know.
They know are out there. They just haven't filed yet. So they're saying $77 billion of that is
people who's buried their head in the sand.
Didn't like the numbers, or said, I got to pay tax
this.
on that.
I can't pay this, and then just crumpled it up and threw it away.
And then $68 billion is they filed, but they failed to pay all the tax due. So some of this, and they don't say, hey, some of this could be set up on installment agreements, where you're paying a monthly payment and so on and so forth.
So 77 is people that just ignored their taxes completely.
Yeah, completely, and just didn't do anything.
68% of people, if they filed their taxes, but maybe they're on an installment plan.
So it just says $68 billion is owed to the IRS. But the biggest one,
5/6 of this money, the majority, what is 5/6? 88% of this money, $542 billion, are people just
that they're saying have underreported their income.
Now, are these technically tax cheats?
I would say probably not the bulk of them. Some, a handful that are blatantly trying to see how they could skid around it. That goes back to the recording. So in 2024, if you are a business owner or you own a LLC, a Schedule C, any business-related entity, you have to file to the Financial Crimes Network, or FinCEN. You're not reporting to the IRS, and you're saying, hey, I own this business, here's my passport, here's my license, and you have to report this data. So they're trying to say, hey, how many people have created LLCs out there, and then not just one, but maybe 6 of them, and they shift money between these LLCs and then never pay tax on it. That's what they're saying. And the IRS originally received $80 billion over 10 years, and that was the beginning of this year. They took $20 billion away in the debt ceiling debate, so they still got $60 billion sitting out there. What that's saying is everybody that's self-employed, they're looking for that $542 billion in tax.
Of the people that either blatantly are cheating on their taxes or are just saying, well, I don't have to. I won't include this.
It's different if you said, "Hey, you didn't get a 1099 for a couple of grand that was mailed to you for something you did. You forgot about it, and you get it, and you go, oh man, we get that. I've got a dozen of them already sitting on my desk, and I need to amend the return and add stuff that they forgot about. That's legit. If you underreport your income by more than 25%, so if you're that Uber driver and you go, hey, I'm not going to report this 1099K. They got your number out there, and it's just a matter of time.
And would you say, Jeff Zufall, if you underreport your income by over 25%, you're probably doing it on purpose?
More than likely.
That's not a mistake.
More than likely. And again,
I missed $40,000.
But again, some people that are starting a small business, getting the wheels in motion, they get that they're like, I don't make a lot of money. I get that. Their records are terrible. We can help you that with QuickBooks. Yeah. We have a full accounting scenario.
I could see a lot of people,
and they get payments that come in monthly. I say every other week, but they get it monthly coming in. They get a 1099K. They do not realize that they have to report that. Mm-hmm. And then there's the 360 where they say, oh, I made $50,000 in revenue, but I got this 1099K for $40,000, and they report $90 on their tax return. Really, it's a combination of those guys. You got to subtract one from the other.
Does anybody who owns their own business or even individually eagerly overpay their taxes?
It comes to mind. There's 2 people that come to mind that are scared to death of the IRS. Period. They've had a run-in in the past, and they're like, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to do that.
Like, I feel like the majority of people are like, well, I got this sitting over here, but I'll just leave that. And, if they want to come, we'll see if I can get away with it.
I'd say the bulk of people we deal with literally are legit, and they do get something from the IRS. They go panic mode. I mean, we're like, hey, you got 30 days to respond. Let us, get time to look at it, figure out what it says, how we respond. But they're like, no, they got to do it now. And I get that because people are scared of them.
I would say in my own household, my wife would be the IRS sent us this, so we have to pay it. And I'm more like, well, let me Let me have Jeff take a look at it.
Exactly. And I say this to anybody out there listening. If you get a letter from them, regular mail, read it. Don't throw it in a drawer. Read it. Get it in front of somebody so they can figure out what it is. Most of what we're seeing is identity theft issues where you got to prove who you are. Even though you filed your return, you filed it electronically, they're like, hey, send us a copy of your return, W-2s, something like that. It's a simple fix. Others we're seeing is where we think the IRS's database went a little nuts. They're kicking off these weird letters going back to 20 and 21, looking for stuff that shouldn't be there is the easiest way. So we're thinking that the computers kind of went nutty once they got back in the swing. So, again, look at it. If it's certified mail, make sure somebody really looks at it quickly because that means they're serious and they're not playing anymore.
And that somebody could be you.
Yes. Call us. We'll help you figure out what in the world it is and how we approach it. So
Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group, 636-394-5524. His office in Ellisville. I've been there several times. And we always use the flower shop analogy, or at least I always use it. Somebody really loves flowers and is great at arrangements and decides, I'm going to open my own flower shop. And then they realize they have no idea how to do math or
not so
run
much
the
the
books
math.
for a business.
Everybody, the way that QuickBooks is sold today, you look at any commercial out there, it's like, oh, look, you own a small business, you got QuickBooks, you can do this. There's a little accounting knowledge that needs to be applied to it. So we usually get a hold of QuickBooks that are 4 or 5 months old, and it's a nightmare. The only way to explain it, it's totally fixable. You just need somebody that knows how to reconcile the QuickBooks feeds and get it back on track.
So if you're good at flower arranging but you're bad at accounting, Jeff can help you out as well. You can kind of audit people's small businesses. That's kind of what you specialize in. And make sure that let's fix this over here. Let's double down on the things you're doing right. Let's fix the things that you were doing wrong. Anything in the red, let's turn that into black. And hopefully you can be on your way, because I got to imagine it is tough to try to run your own business and do the accounting yourself.
And the problem is a lot of people were never trained in what a balance sheet looks like. How do you read a profit loss? Is it really true?
I still don't know what gross versus net. I still don't know how to do that. So.
Cost of goods sold.
$542 billion unreported income, whether that was on purpose, whether that was on accident, fat finger, whether that was just saying, I don't think that needs to be included, or I want to take that as a write-off. That the government knows that you're out there, so they might be hunting you down. You might want to give Jeff a call and make sure you're on the up and up. 636-394-5524. I wanted to start with the 5524 first. 636-394-5524. Jeff Zufall, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. We'll go to a break, come back, finish this episode. Keep what's yours with Jeff Zufall.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the show, not a lot of time, but I have some really good information to share with you right now to just kind of keep things into perspective. Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. We want to make sure that you're paying as little tax as legally possible. That's what I do. That's why I hired Jeff. We started doing the show. It's great. I'm keeping more of my money rather than going to the federal government, but sometimes we talk about investing, because you got me doing both a Roth and a 401k, and I've amped it up 2%. I'm like, all right, you know what? I can live with this. But what did you say about a 401k?
So this is a study out of Fidelity, and they're saying 60 million Americans contribute to a 401k plan every year.
Okay.
And the funny part is 93% don't even know how it works. So if you need help, call us. Whether that's you don't have beneficiaries put on your plan. That's huge, but it's a simple scenario. Where the money's invested at, what the corporate match is, when the corporate match shows up. If you're doing all pre-tax, if you're doing after-tax, a combination, and it's all mathematics.
If you're going to do it and have it taken out of your paycheck to save for retirement and old age, do it right.
Do it right.
Don't
exactly.
just keep,
And there's situations, again, I get tax rates will go up in the future. I get that. But there's situations where it will benefit you today to do it all pre-tax. And there's situations where maybe you don't do all pre-tax. You do half pre-tax, half after tax. You know.
If you got it running, every paycheck it comes out, you're saving it pre-tax. You have to pay the taxes eventually.
Yeah.
The older you get, you need to revisit that and say, are we still on track? Should I switch it up? Should I start taking some out and converting it to Roth?
Yep.
It's all a game, and it's all about keeping more of what's yours. The problem is I'm one of the 93%, and I have no idea how 401ks really, truly work.
Yeah.
So I need help with that. If you need help with it, you can call Jeff Zufall, 636-394-5524. He's who I call. He can be who you call as well. CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com, 636-394-5524. Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next week.
You betcha.
You've been listening to Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Manager at Capital Advisory Group. To learn more, call 636-394-5524 or visit CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com.